I don't know. She just seemed a certain type of bougie that I just thought, But anyway, so now what we really find
Maybe
out
she was
is,
just stuck up.
well, that maybe. But what we find out though is that there's a class difference in terms of their origins, right? But it manifests itself a little oddly because we have Winston, who's basically from a higher class than she was from, but he's broke because he's young, right? He's only 20. He hasn't had a chance to go in the world and make anything for himself. But when you look at the house that he comes from and he's got servants or whatever, like his family is paid. So he's from this higher class and she's not from that higher class. And maybe this also informs the relationship between and how they view money. Because, they go on to talk about, what she wanted to do with her life. She did not want to do what she does, stock brokerage and anything related to that. She wanted to make furniture. And so essentially she was an artist, right?
Yeah.
And then
Who wants to make furniture though? That's very weird. You got to just start. Maybe you got a dollhouse and you like, all right, let me start making stuff.
I don't know, but that's what she wanted to do. And then, we get a couple of little gems, life philosophies. And she's like, sometimes you don't know what your life is going to turn out like, not even when you plan it. And he agrees with her. And, she says she doesn't make furniture anymore. And he's like, why? And she said, I make money instead. And but the look on her face was like she had to actually think, like she really hadn't thought about why, and that I make money instead. And hearing her say that out loud, I think made her contemplate something different, right? And
I guess, but the idea of having to make money is just prevalent, right? You just have to, right? If you were making furniture, you wouldn't be making money, right? So it's kind of a.
But she looked a little sad,
yeah,
like
of
she
course.
hadn't fully contemplated it before, but So and then the idea of passion too, right? Because she was like, well, what's your passion, and doing your passion and whatever. And then they talk about how Winston had put off going to medical school because, he wasn't sure that was exactly what he wanted to do at that time. And I think he, wanted to, be a chef maybe, or, just try something else. Because the other thing, and we talked about this before with another movie, what was that, where we were talking about somebody who was a doctor. But anyway, Winston's father is a doctor. Now he's following exactly in those same footsteps. And we talk about how people are very apt to do similar things as to their parents.
Especially because of the wrangles of class.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be in the same class or similar class as, where you come from.
And how at that medical school graduation we went to, how many of the people who were graduating from medical school, parents were physicians.
Yeah.
And it because they're, if your parent is a physician, then they come and they give you your hood in this ceremony, right, when you're becoming a physician. And so we sat there and we're watching, and it's like all these people, some of them, even both of their parents were doctors. So it's very interesting to watch. And so
Winston was shaming his parents.
Yeah. But they were giving him the space to kind of find himself or whatever. And he's taking a year off. So he wasn't going to go directly, or some time off, take as much time as you need. And Stella could relate to that because Stella was saying that's the same thing her mother told her, but ultimately she wound up where she was supposed to be. She wound up going, and doing whatever, jobs and schooling and, that led to this, making a whole bunch of money that she makes and stuff. So the next day, Winston comes and
he's early. He's dressed up. I'm like, man, why ain't this boy over here trying to look fresh?
I know.
He got his shirt tucked in and stuff, some slacks.
And he's like, I got good news and I got bad news.
He got hired, and then here goes Stella. She all mad
for some type of chef job, and he's like, he can't make because they were going to be together all day that day.
All day, every day,
and be in the bed, laid up, ordering room service on her credit card. But so yeah, she's mad, and she's like, I don't have time for those high school games, Winston, and she's really pissed off with him. And he's like, but I want to see you before you leave. And so she finally agrees to see him. And then we see Stella and Delilah talking on the beach. And Stella's and she says to her, you think you got played, huh? And then Stella confesses that she feels like, she's some desperate old broad or whatever. And, that she's not calling him back, though, when Winston is trying to reach her, and Delilah is like, girl, call that boy back. And then there's a breeze that blows on the beach, and the last line of that scene is Delilah saying,
God's here.
God is here. And then it was just like a very interesting thing that she would say that. But we go on, and Delilah calls Winston back on his job. And initially I was like, I don't know what the cell phone status in 98 exactly was. Maybe, but I don't think cell phones were super widespread at that point. But anyway, so she calls him on his job, and he's not there. And she chooses not to leave a message. So
she shouldn't have even been calling this job.
So she doesn't see Winston before she leaves. She gets back home to her sister.
Why was he working so much though? That don't even make sense. I just got this job working over here. Maybe I could see you for 2 hours. She's like, how? Well, when can we see each other, basically? And he's like, I'm going to be working every day. And she's like, what about tonight? I'm going to be working. Right? Like, what, dude? You working, what, 16-hour days? Like, what?
You know, and but here's the thing. And maybe, I doubt it was really a full commentary on it. But, like, this is what I think hospitality industry is, though. Because if you hear about some of the conditions that the workers, like on those cruise ships, or if you work at a resort like the resort that they went to, that, you know, those folks are working hard.
But they need it, right? Yeah,
and
this guy is, you know, he ain't got to do that.
So he subjected
just like he put off med school, he could have put off working as the chef's assistant to blow some backs out. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
he'd be like, give me a week because I got something I need to do over here.
So at any rate, they don't see each other. So she arrives back at her house, and her sister Angela is like sitting on the lawn in a lawn chair. She's very pregnant or whatever. And Angela's like, you cradle robber. And the other sister is like, I want to hear about it. So we find out that Vanessa done told Angela, right? One sister told the other sister.
How did Vanessa know?
Because Stella told Vanessa. Because Vanessa tells her, she's like, oh, I'm sorry. But I just had to tell her, you know. So nobody's going to keep any secrets. So they all talking about, you know, each other's business and stuff. And so Vanessa is very receptive. Vanessa's like, ooh, girl, give me the fine details. I want to hear about how you got your back blown out. But then we have Angela, who is being very judgmental. You should be ashamed of yourself. Da 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 da. Meanwhile, you got Vanessa.
That young boy must have put something on your ass, is what Vanessa say.
And then Vanessa's also like, but in the meantime, you know, this is coming up and that I'm going to need $300 for my bills if you could help me. And she's like, oh, and I got a little bit of bad news. You know, she didn't have a fender bender in her car while she was gone, too.
See, very different from soul food. Because it's just expected. Is she seen as trash?
No, but the sister does throw it in her face that her life is not together with regard to money.
That's
but you're
very
right
different than saying somebody is trash and not.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. This is very soul foodish.
They say the whole family on Soul Food was trash because they basically kept asking Terry for stuff. That's all the sister in here did. Yeah, I don't think she trashed though. I'm pretty sure now that I said it, a lot of people probably gonna think it.
Well, yeah, no, I don't think she was either. And I don't think this sister, I think they just understood what the deal was.
Your role in the family, coming out the projects.
You know, but, so Angela is sitting in judgment. Vanessa is a mess asking for $300, but like, I want to hear every fine detail of how y'all got down. And, but when she hears about the fender in her car, she was like, was anybody hurt? And then she's like, no, nobody was hurt. And so since nobody was hurt, she was like, well, whatever. And then she says, well, it's only material things and whatever. And she's like, oh, and that's when she says the line that Hype brought up.
Said that. That young boy must have put something on your ass.
Yeah, Vanessa said that because Vanessa was like, you would have normally been so mad. Like, what did he do? You know, what did, you know? So you got the one sister saying she's desperate and the other sister who's egging it on. And then, you know, Vanessa gets ready. She's like, well, I'm about to leave now. So Vanessa gets up and hops in a whole ambulance because she's like then pulled up to the house. She's an ambulance driver. Like, why are you just over here on the job in your uniform and everything? So, yeah, I don't know. I thought that was just funny. So then we look at Stella is back at work, and she comes into her boss's office. She's like, I can't log on. I'm trying to do this, and my files are missing. And
Files are missing. How you know your
okay.
files missing? You can't even.
Well, maybe she meant her
physical
paper files.
files.
Yeah.
You
know,
can't
she was
log
like, I
in.
can't do this and this. So then the boss is like, well, you know, the number's
There's
been
the
down
merger
for a
all of a
while. There's a
sudden.
merger.
You're not that important, so we didn't think to
Right.
call you while you were on vacation to talk about some of the changes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then she act like she leaving, and then she comes back, and then she got to give him her mind, and she's like, I built this division.
Yeah.
I may sue ultimately. And she's mad that she was like, well, you were busy protecting your spot, you know, and whatever. So she's all mad about that. And so she gets home and she tells her son.
And her son is saying stuff he shouldn't be saying.
Like
talking
what?
about he got his savings and he can help with them. Man, go sit down somewhere.
She's like, Mama saved up a little to the side, you know. But she does tell him she lost the job, and then that's when they have the conversation about, hey,
very
you
different
know,
than Roll
can we go
Bounce.
to Jamaica? Right, very different than the movie Roll Bounce, which we covered a few weeks ago.
Right, and this son was younger than X was in Roll Bounce.
Because in Roll Bounce, basically, if you don't know, what happened is the father lost his job, and then he's trying to keep up this facade as if he has a job, leaving the house every day in like a 3-piece suit, knowing he ain't got no job, and he's going out to try to find work and stuff, and he's under the stress and strain of, you know, not having enough money and stuff, but he doesn't want to admit it to his children. Whereas here, she's like, look, I lost my job and whatever. So, they talk, you know, the son is like, well, can we go to Jamaica instead of, you know, Africa or whatever? And so she's like, well, I don't know, we'll see or whatever. So then next thing we know, Winston calls her on the phone.